follow me around everywhere I go.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and call this workshop to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carly, can you call the roll, please?
Nidinger,
Here?
McAleese,
Here.
Thompson, Reed,
Here.
Penny.
Here. Well, we got one big item, budget. So, where's our guy?
He's
There he is.
When he walks in, we'll say, we object to everything you had on here, because I know he's been working so hard.
So hard, that's right.
That would really get to you.
Any of you have anything else? Or Terry, do you want to come up and start? Yeah.
Heard comments from peanut gallery or something.
Mine were all positive.
Oh, good.
Yes.
There we go.
Not sitting in the hot seat.
Okay. No, he sent all that new stuff this morning, right? With the stuff for the building and the building and all that, okay.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we're gonna be jumping through Exhibit B.
There's Jim.
Good morning.
Morning. Is that where you want us to start, Jim? Exhibit B? Or do you want to start,
We're gonna start with,
you had a different setup in your pack. Let's see you at first.
yep. I was gonna actually just start with the recap on the capital.
Okay.
I just revised it.
Yeah.
We didn't do a lot with it. We moved carpeting for City Hall to 2027 for 23.5, and electric upgrade was 10,000. We moved that to 2027. And we had a question on the CID vehicle. We had 45,000 budgeted,
Right.
and y'all wanted to know if we could decrease it to 35.
I put in a request to L&J and asked them for some pricing. We had originally had 45,000 in for both vehicles spread out, and we based that on when Chief got his vehicle. So I know his has some extra features, but I figured a couple years out it would have been. So I've asked them for a price. I haven't gotten that from them yet. He's out of country, and I had to send it to somebody different. So we're working on that. Should have something in the next day or two.
This is for that Ford?
So I was gonna do an SUV. We had gotten the pickup truck for the one vehicle, and I was gonna do a small SUV for the other.
Oh, okay. We were assuming you were going with another pickup, so.
Well,
I
it's
guess
in the
what it
shop
was.
again. Wouldn't start again this morning, so we, I'm a little scattered today.
Wouldn't
so-
start?
Yeah, so they replaced the battery on Thursday, because they said sometimes the electronics drain it quickly if it sits for a long time on the lot. They said, we'll just replace the battery. They replaced it, and went to come into work this morning, and it wouldn't start. So I am taking it back over today at some point to see what's going on with it. I'm assuming it's like an alternator or something.
Everything's under warranty though, right?
Yes,
Brand new.
yeah.
Is it the hybrid model?
No,
No,
it
it's
does
not.
not.
It's just, okay.
So I don't know what's going on with that, but
I guess we're just gonna leave the 45 in there for now, unless you get a better,
I should be able to get you a price by the end of the week.
Are you looking for another Ford SUV or just a SUV?
I had asked them either a Ford or a Chevy.
Okay, so like an Escape or
So I
Blazer?
was thinking something along the same size as the Pathfinder. It seems to work out well with the stuff that we pick up from, signs and stuff. It's a good trunk base.
Bronco.
They look good, that's
I
for
would
sure.
not argue, but
Bronco
that is
Sport
not,
might be in that budget, not Bronco.
I think we're looking at like Explorer or not
Huge
Maverick,
truck.
Edge,
Really
I think
small
the
one,
Edge
right?
is a little bigger than
it's
the.
bigger than the Escape. It's between the Escape and the
Oh,
Explorer.
okay.
You know.
Yeah, I
Doesn't have
told
a
them to
third
price
row.
it in somewhere in the line with the Pathfinder size. So Equinox was the Chevy one that they were thinking, so somewhere in that ballpark.
Perfect. All right.
I had the Wanamaker letters, but if we want, we can do CID first, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Let's do CID.
Yeah, I'll put that after CID. We drug her up here.
I gave you 3 schedules, I think mostly Exhibit B, and then Exhibit B2 gives you a 5-year history of expenses, something for you to compare to. I was gonna kind of give an overview of the payroll first. Specifically, I think I had some exhibits in here that
Well, some of that's because of additional employees, things like that. That's why the insurance is up too, well, besides the increase in insurance, but, yeah, okay.
Basically, starting with the salaries, wanted to have a conversation about that. I did a 5% increase on salaries. I put the CPI in there that I had. On a national average, it was 2.3%. We had a discussion, department heads, and felt like with the disaster in the area and the effects of it, that was kind of low. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so we wanted to come and ask for the difference, or get your all's opinion as to where that. But this budget reflects a 5%.
I've read several articles on it. They all believe that the CPI is too low for what's happening and what's going on, especially in the United States right now with the price of all. And the sheet you've given us here on the CPI kind of outlines a lot of that. When you look at individual items and what they're costing people, I mean, electricity and shelter and medical services. I'd say 5 is a good number for us to just lay with at the moment, and then keep an eye on it near the end to see if anything fluctuates. But we can always go down a little bit if we need to, but I can't see, even if CPI were to go down, everything costs more. It's just not
Once they
fair.
go up, they
I don't-
never
I don't-
come
I don't
down.
see it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, everything went up. So CPI is still up from before, and now this is on top of what CPI was last year and on top of the year before that. So I think 5 is fair to start with at this point, so we think we should just leave it unless someone else has any other ideas.
Very fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make the comment on the salaries. We do have a new position, an administrative assistant in there, added about 48,000 in salaries. The 5% added, I think, 21,000, and the difference is step increase. We have a couple employees that are still in the step 8 bucket, so they get the 5, but then they get a stipend step, so they get another 1 or 2% usually, so. That's giving you your difference there on Schedule B. And then you're gonna see that most everything else is gonna follow along with that. Your Social Security is a percentage of your pay, so it's the same percentage increase. For the retirement system, I did upgrade to I saw a couple 2% raises on the different, there's like 3 different categories. Should that overtime it up in there? I don't know. I don't know, all I did was took last year, we had 2 people in there, we had 1,500, I said, well, we got an extra staff, actually, you've got 2 other people, but I just included office staff, so I just decreased it 15, bumped it 5%. That's a normal year's overtime,
Without a storm.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And without the aftermath of the storm too, I guess, I don't know,
We'll try not to do overtime,
so.
not this year.
If you wanna, if
Well, I mean, if,
As to what she thinks over the next 6 months she might be using, we could adjust it.
So there's a question of whether it gets reimbursed if we,
Right now, it's not going to, I don't believe.
so they said that if we waive fees, they will not reimburse the overtime, is what he was saying.
So they're not gonna reimburse
Well,
for the
the-
For
overtime?
the community improvement department.
Why?
well, they're gonna do some of it, right, from up to a certain point and then not do any, or is it all of it from,
Well, my understanding is up to a point they were going to, but we had a discussion the other day. FEMA told us that if you waive your building fees on some of these projects, they're gonna withhold money equivalent to your waived fees, so. I don't know
Nice to
if it was
find that out a year
specifically
later.
on
Yeah.
the wage part, but.
Everything's a secret
I know.
until you ask a question.
Or until it comes up, yeah, somehow.
So we're paying twice for basically
Yeah.
helping people, I mean,
So I guess the
government.
question on that one would be, if we were to add in additional overtime for storm in the budget process, would we need to do all of the number here?
Yeah.
Prepare for that, right? It's,
How do you-
take the big number and
it's probably, yeah, I'm sure it's a big number.
It's something we'd have to look into. As
Right.
far- It's category G, I think they call it. And they pay for certain administrative for us to be working with FEMA, but I don't know in your case, I think.
Is it only for that
Marcy said they said
department?
no.
yes.
For other departments, they pay for the overtime that might have occurred, but just because
And had we not waived fees, they would have. Was the,
paid it.
It's because we waived the fees?
We also didn't know that.
We didn't know
Yeah,
that.
But
no, this
still,
just came up what
sure
last
would've
week.
Yeah,
changed
they're
their
coming up with a
decision.
lot of stuff
what were we
after
gonna
the
do though
fact.
anyway?
Right.
It wouldn't have made a
The
difference.
what?
They're issuing a lot of decisions on things like
unpleasant,
after the
but
fact.
unavoidable
Right.
surprises that we've just got to
It
deal
would
with.
be nice to know it, that's all. We would have
Yeah.
done it anyway, I'm sure, but,
Well, then remember everybody else down at the beach.
but I mean, right now, I guess, do we want to kind of have some extra funds in, I know sometimes we have fluff, as I like to call it, in there to cover emergencies, whether they happen or not. I mean, you got $2,000 in overtime, I'm sure we probably had 50 or 60 or 100, I don't know how much overtime we had out there. But do we want to just have somebody there to help buffer some overtime in the future? Or do we want to keep it low for budget purposes?
Any idea how many hours of overtime this would work out to be for your, is it just for 2 employees now or for 3? that we're
So that would
talking
be the
about?
entire department. We don't usually do.
But you have some salaried, right? Or does everyone get
No, I'm-
overtime?
I'm the only salaried
Oh,
employee.
okay.
Everybody
All right.
is.
So this is for the 3 people that you have now or and the 4th person?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and I think it needs to be a lot more, yeah, at least.
I think we should have something in there, just in case. As you say, you're flooding.
Pass this out to you. This is the current year's.
Have to,
You see FEMA on there twice, those are FEMA wages. So you see what it cost for the storm, almost $40,000.
Thank you.
So you see what the FEMA, we separated for FEMA purposes so we can, show it to them. But they make you go through different calculations. They take your salaries and you got to calculate benefits and add to it, so. But that's the actual wages related to the storm up to March 27th, I think was the cutoff.
so we got 35 for the CID other wages.
Well, they call it overtime straight and overtime. We distinguish that on our books. FEMA just calls it overtime, so those two together is for
Okay.
the overtime, so.
Any recommendations?
Well, it's kind of one of those things, we put it in a low amount, we're not going to need it. We put it in a big amount, we're going to end up using it. I mean, I think just keep it low and hope for the best.
Double what we got in there, Lee? 305, or?
I would say minimum that, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking 4X based on some of these other numbers, but we're hoping nothing will happen this year.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just catch up.
right.
Double seems reasonable at this point.
All right, let's make that an even 5. 26 budget.
That was a surprise the other day.
Yeah.
Question I had, looking through the budget, was on the consultant services.
Yeah.
Is that for, because we got the contracted employee,
So we have the
To help
Impera
out.
Veritas for inspections, and then we also use that for, right now we're using Chris Bremo for our planning services, for the big stuff.
yeah, so that bring up $30,000 increase, cover that kind of stuff. Okay. You know, I think the only other question I have with Jim before you move forward is on the third page. Two of the line items in red. I didn't know if that was just a printing mistake or if
Mine
it was a
did
negative.
print rate is one of them $5,000.
Got a 50,000 and a 5,000.
What page are we on?
Page 3, B3.
B3.
He's on B3.
One's for computer consultant at 50,000, and the other is for promotional at 5.
The 5,000, when I was going through the budget, we didn't include that line on Terry, so she didn't put 5,000 in. But it was on last year's budget, we budgeted 5,000 for promotional, so I wasn't sure. So that was a question in my mind, do we have?
Like to help
Was
us with
that-
our flood rating, maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that one of the things where
CRS
you had to have in the budget a certain amount to show
Yes.
that you were actually gonna be spending it on promotional stuff?
And I think we were considering wrapping one of the vehicles
Yeah,
for to get the additional
Yeah.
CRS points.
So I basically rolled that one forward.
It was just kind of a question for you, that way you had it in red?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I found it going through it, and I was like, and I sent Terry an email, but I think she was out of town, so.
And then the computer consultant, you had that one in red.
The only reason I got that in red, it looks so far, we've spent $43,000, or in '24, we spent 43. I budgeted 45. 50 looks reasonable, but I have not gone through the computer citywide, so I was thinking that number could change. It seems reasonable, but if it changes, it's on an allocation type basis. I have to look at what they're charging us, and we allocate it to the different departments, so I haven't done that yet. But the number is reasonable.
Yeah. I didn't, really didn't notice anything else, but it looked like the majority of the increase is from,
Zoo staff.
payroll consultant services, so, everything else seems like it stayed pretty flat, not a whole lot of big changes in there. Of course, insurance always kills us every year.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, I gave you some worksheets there on the health insurance. I bumped it 9%, and all I did there is I have a history of rates, and the average for the past 3 years is 9%, so I took an average of the past 3. Last year it increased 5, I think the year before it was up 11, so we don't know what those numbers will be until late August, so just, until that time, we don't really know what the health insurance rate's gonna be. And in general insurance, I talked to World Risk Management. He told me to use 14% for workers' comp and 12.5% for everything else. He said we're gonna try to keep you under those, but, so that's what I basically did. I think the average citywide is about 12.7. I'm sorry.
Is it quite a bit of a jump, like 14% compared to other years on the work comp?
I'm I'm gonna just tell you what he said, and I didn't go and check his numbers at this point. He said the wages that we submitted were up 14%. Workers' comp's tied. It's tied to wages, so.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's where he was making his assumption. So he said liability, workers' comp. are
That would make
tied.
sense then, all right.
Yeah, so.
We do have
I didn't know if
3
you
new
wanted,
employees, so.
yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to go through those numbers. I put a schedule in there for the group. Basically, these six. And I put the budget in for each department so you can see what it is. Brief explanation for the new people here. Currently, the city is paying $1,256 per employee a month for health coverage. The city pays 100% of that. So I bumped it 9%, comes to $1,369.29. So on a per employee basis, it's about $16,431.48. In addition to the health insurance, the city also has a health reimbursement program where we'll pay up to $500 for employees if they do certain hospital
Oh, okay.
inpatient to help cover the deductible. So I add 500. I don't actually budget for every employee. You'll see that the first column, I don't want to go more on the full estimate. The second column is what I budgeted for the current year for each department. And I don't always budget for every employee $500, but I try to get at least half of them.
Because over time, you've noticed not all of them use it?
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Correct. But it's, technically,
It's there for them to use, yeah.
technically, if everybody wanted to use it and could use it, we would be on the hook, because that's our policy. The third item is the city covers 30% of dependent coverages for the city. And up at the very top, you see, up at the top for employee and children is $349, is the 30% per month, okay? Employee and spouse is $472, and family is $822. So going down the side, I don't even come close to using all our employees, okay? So these are how I've allocated it out. For community improvement, I budgeted $121,300 compared to $90,000 last year. We have one new employee, so that's contributing to that. But you see, I know that there's 2 employees in that department, one with, I think, employee and spouse, and employee and child. So that's about $9,800, and then I budgeted another $9,800. So if you have one person come in and claim family, it would like that. And we do have a planner in the budget, so we don't know who we're bringing in, if they'll have to cover it. So I got extra money in there. But keep that schedule handy, because you can see what I'm budgeting for finance, fire, and public works, and the group health. I guess in my mind, from the big picture standpoint, we're budgeting $870,000 citywide for health insurance. So we'll throw that out. But you'll see it in different departments, so if you don't add them up, you don't have a feeling for what that's one in the city. And then,
So for fire, these numbers could change depending on the contract, right?
that's a true statement.
I'm just wondering, if, I would imagine health insurance is being discussed.
I think there was a health insurance item
right. Okay.
Exhibit B8 just shows you the breakdown citywide. Citywide, we're budgeting $403,800 for our various types of insurance, plus $119,000 for workers' comp. And across the top, our 522 is fire, 524 is CID. So CID, we budgeted $12,950. You'll see it on the schedule there. The breakdown up top, shows you what the property coverage is, 3879, general liability, 6100, automobile, 2000, and then we split the flood insurance between Public Works and CID for the building over there, 880, brings you to the 12950. So the spreadsheet's much bigger than this. It kind of allocates the costs based on various factors. So. But just in general, you can see the total for the city. You'll see that for each department. Again, I use 14% in it averages at 12.7%. That could change. Could go up, could go down. My typical experience is it usually goes up. So.
That's my only experience, unfortunately.
True. So are we done with CID then? Everybody, any other questions besides what we've raised already?
I'll have more questions.
Awesome. Good. Thank you.
And then legislative is Exhibit A, it's towards the back. And legislative is relatively simple. A2 gives you a 5-year kind of look back of the expenses. I tend to not change a lot of the budgets. It's for y'all to change. The biggest change I made is I bumped salaries 5%. It affected Social Security, bumped that. And I increased legal services by $20,000. If I trended it out, we're trending towards a little bit higher than that. But what's actually booked is through March. Yeah, but it's actually only through March, and the numbers that I tried to put in were what's been posted for May. So if you add $10,000 to that, then double, then divided by 8 times 12, it comes to around $92,000.
You're also scheduled to do charter review next year. So just keep that in mind.
There was one big month in there of $7,500 for some certain services, but on a monthly basis, it's usually a couple thousand over retainer. Retainer's $5,000 a month. So retainer is $60,000. Travel, we haven't been using all the money, but I didn't want to reduce that, so. Unless you have questions, I think that's it. Okay.
Tom, did you have anything, or? No. Oh, okay. So we got the Wanamaker visit? The scary pagers? So, on the first page, it's got the City Hall renovation with second-story addition. Would that be a third-story addition, or?
So that is this being a new first floor, having above,
Not having anything downstairs?
and not having anything downstairs, correct? Maybe a little bit of storage,
Storage or
but
whatever.
not a room.
Not a room, okay.
What do you mean by storage? 'Cause you
You
really-
could close in some, like the band room could be like a storage closet, basically making it to where it was an outdoor, like,
So it wouldn't be additional offices or anything like that? It would just
couldn't be downstairs. We couldn't do that now anyway, though.
Yeah.
We can't have offices downstairs. We can't have, like, government function on the first floor.
Parking, access, and storage.
So,
So it's pretty much the way a raised home is on the island, right? There's nothing on the first floor? It's
Pretty
just
much.
concrete
So
brick walls to hold the rest of the building
Does
up?
this include, I guess, upgrading the elevator to go to the third floor or second floor addition?
it's, yeah, it's supposed to. Yeah,
Okay.
so,
A lot better than the other one, just turning the bottom into a garage. That's doing nothing else. That's just turning the second page two.
wait, which one, what?
Well, page two says City Hall with structured parking. So I'm assuming that means turning downstairs into a parking lot?
That's a new construction. That's a tear down rebuild.
That's a demo.
Oh, to tear the whole building down.
Mhm. The two options you have in front of you are
Oh, you
adding a floor or tear down rebuild.
A tear down rebuild would add the floor too. I
Correct,
assume.
because we would have to it would have to be an elevated structure.
What would give us
so-
underground parking?
It would, yeah, parking below. We didn't think, they looked at it and said that the current structure with the height of where the current first floor is not tall enough to actually make it parking under. But if we were to reconstruct, we would make it taller. Am I saying that right, Terry? Terry, come on up.
No pickup truck.
It's too low
Cars
currently
only.
to make it parking under the building, is
So
what they said.
the building was too low, as well as the columns are too close together
Yeah,
to make it so that
Do
you can
parking
pull in and pull
currently.
out. So they would have to, if we elevated the structure, it would be higher because we're, the flood zone that we're in. And then on top of that, they would make the columns so that it was functional to be a parking.
we would actually
building.
build it with parking in mind, which we couldn't do with the current structure.
And
So they'd still have to go up 14 feet or more,
Yeah,
more probably.
yeah, I don't have the number in
Yeah.
my head
Okay.
as to what,
Oh,
but
what-
we're in a V zone, so it would be to the bottom of the lowest number. So.
so
And
what,
that's if we kept this building and put one up on top.
That's if we tear down. If we keep the building, I believe second floor meets the code requirement, but I'd have to look at that.
so how long does this type of construction take for each option?
3 years.
That would be my gut. Design, tear
Realistically.
down,
So
rebuild.
realistically, we would have
Yeah.
cost of having City Hall renting someplace to use while this is all going on.
Or retrofitting the fire station.
Or retrofitting
But
the
there'd
fire
have to be
station.
some work over there in order to do it.
And so if we were just to add the additional floor, could this area still be used for working or no? Well, that's what's going on.
Rob?
Coming from a big company, the
No.
answer would be no.
Probably
Because if
not.
there's overhead work going on, you wouldn't
Yeah.
want the potential for anything to come down and hurt somebody.
Honestly, I'm not sure how functional you could work while there's
Right.
construction going on
I
also.
agree, yeah.
Even when they were doing stuff downstairs, it was
So
so loud.
7
Yeah, because even if we're out
So it's
temporarily, then we
7
would just be
million
out.
versus 8.9 million, is that what we're
What'd you say?
saying?
I'm sorry.
I'm saying,
Well, it sounds like, either way, we're not gonna have a building for 2 or 3 years, whichever option we go with. And if there, I guess there's no such thing as a grant for this type of work.
There is.
Very minimal probably. though.
It's tough. It's tough. Now, things are changing in that area, especially for where we are based on the hurricanes that happened last year, but everything, I mean, with the current political climate, no one knows what funding is gonna be available because there are changes being made, so,
Plus, they state expect a 5% escalation per year, and that's probably every year of construction, the cost of material and everything's gonna go up 5% or more. Or more. So
Well,
that, so
unless
that
you walk
seven,
into a
so
price.
7 million would be 10 million or 11 million before we were done probably, kind of like the fire station. Kept escalating, because of cost.
But if you lock in the deal, does it still change?
Once the,
Material you have to pay additional for.
yeah, if there's increases or
Material
changes,
cost.
change orders, of course. But it wouldn't be until the design is complete,
Which would take us,
probably
Right,
a year.
This is what the engineers think it will cost. This is not what a contractor would charge you, so that could be more too. Contractor might come in and say, well.
And this
yeah, but-
includes architecture and the contractor and everything?
There was a meeting yesterday.
Man, I'll tell you, what a mess.
The board,
It's a
the
bad
company
year
was
for
in there
this.
For grants, for things like this, and a lot of the cities had used them. I have all the information, I bought it, so I have to give it to Carly,
yeah, that'd be great.
yeah.
God, I hate spending that kind of money, but it's a matter of putting lipstick on a pig versus a new building. So, do we wanna?
Push problems forward.
Do we wanna just, put a floor up top and have a non-usable first floor? Or do we wanna switch all that around and, now, having the underground parking means we wouldn't have to build up the lot? We'd have to
Correct.
raise the lot.
Correct, it would be pilings below. I'm assuming they would build it up a little bit because of the
Yeah.
flooding that we have. Because we don't want to perpetuate the flood, but we're also can't push it to the neighbor, so, there would be some elevating of the grade.
And of course, in 2026, we should get the resiliency study
Yes,
back. And that's to figure out all this flooding out here, what to do on the streets.
correct.
So that's gonna be additional costs to the city, but there might be some funding for that, unless
Mhm.
that's the way. So this is another loan, I'm guessing, just so that.
Well, and we have concerns because of the loan that we currently have on the fire station. It may be difficult for us to extend out a second.
Well, I have concerns, you don't have money in your capital projects fund, you'd have to take it to the banks and show them your balance sheet and see what they're willing to give you, based on, right now, I'm transferring money from general fund, public service utility taxes to help cover some of the debt service. So, I mean, if you look forward, that's gonna be a problem. It's not doable, but if you wanted to use that lower taxes, you'd have to do a referendum. You have to take it to referendum, I believe. So
Penny for pennies money? No,
you don't have enough money.
don't have that money.
You're bringing in $800,000 a year, your debt service on the station's $900,
Yeah.
and that doesn't cover any other capital expenditure.
And we don't know what the cost to update the fire station would be to use. But that would be a bonus in the end, because it would be updated, and then once you guys moved out
can
back
move
to here,
Public
then
Works
we could
over
go
there.
back to our plan with Public Works,
Mm-hmm.
taking over that area, and moving them over there, it would be ready to go.
How about if we sell off City Hall and your building and we all make one facility on the old fire station probably that houses the entire city?
Well, I do know that the church property is for sale.
Which property?
That church property we were gonna buy the first time for the fire station. But it won't be on the water. Back there by the
It's
old fire
pretty
station, that
wet
church
over there too, isn't it?
got damaged. Well, it has to
Chief.
be built up, yeah.
Yeah, floods over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
across from the old station, the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
You got water over there.
The dip is more to the south of that location, but right there at, probably from the streets, it's at the Oleander.
Yeah.
Right by 6800, before Park Street. The church is actually on Park in Oleander.
Okay.
But didn't it get flooding, and that's why they moved out of there now?
They're at grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's a
And
third
we have to
option.
build there as well.
Yeah.
There's a third option as well, though. So the third option would be that we just waterproof the downstairs and fix up the fire station for public works and not do anything else. Just don't have a hall. functions or anything in. I mean, is it worth $7 million to get a hall? I mean, that's basically what we're saying.
We were looking at, though, keep in mind that even fixing the first floor, because we think it will push us past the 50% that we can spend, we will have to bring the rest of the building to code, which we still thought was gonna be about $2.5 million.
Did they give you a price for hardening the first floor?
I mean, you can take out the second floor addition, and that's kind of what you got.
Okay.
So what
So
if
it'd
we
still
just
be-
did nothing to the downstairs? Just quit using it?
We currently don't have elevators, which we looked at, it's close to 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
AC, we're using temporary right now down there,
Mm-hmm.
so we would have to do something to condition that space because it's currently, if you leave it stagnant, it's gonna mold.
Like, we're running fans and
We're running
temporary air down there right now.
Temporary air down there.
So-
What about
And
electrical?
our ramp
pan-
is an ADA compliant, correct?
Correct. So if you get anywhere near that 50%, you need, if you go over the 50%, sorry, you need to bring the building up to code.
So if we were just to take, so you walk in the door downstairs like we used to come in, and you had the bathrooms to the left, and you got the elevators, and you got the room off to the right. If we did nothing to the room off to the right, we just fixed when you walk in the front, so you can get to the elevator and go upstairs, that probably wouldn't put us over the 50%. And we just have air conditioning running in that other room to keep it getting mold and stagnant.
The other thing is all the electrical.
It would be
So
closed.
we would have to get, the electrical would need to be elevated or waterproofed, because we have two different areas where there's electrical down there.
Because we can only spend $750. The building's only valued at 1.4.
And there's an option for the appraisal, might bring it up some.
Yeah,
but I
we
don't
can
know.
have a private appraisal to try and bring up the value of the structure a bit, if that's the route you wanna go.
Yeah. Well, none of it's good news, no matter what it is.
And it's very difficult based on what's going on with FEMA and whatnot for us to be able to say, let's try to plan for this, we'll get funding back, because we just don't know the future of FEMA right now,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
so.
So, if FEMA were to still be around and funding is available, this is something that they would help pay for?
They've said that, now they just said it would be a long process, but
Oh,
if
sure.
we're deemed substantially damaged.
I hate to
there would
rely
potentially
on
be
that.
funding, yeah. It's just they said it'll take you a couple of years to get it, so it just wouldn't be very long,
Government speak for a couple.
yeah, a couple of years.
10.
So, there's not a real great solution here.
Yeah. Do we know what it would take to get the old fire station just usable condition? Any cost there?
A lot.
We know it needs a roof.
Yeah.
Air conditioner.
The stuff is
For that roof maybe, something like that?
I'd say more than that. The last project we did was a re-roof of the classroom, just the classroom portion. I can't even remember what that was. It sounds about right. So I think the roofing, I know the sprinkler system needs an update. Parking lot, a little touch up, and then whatever you guys wanted to do to the inside. I guess my question sitting back there, if we're gonna get an appraisal on the building here, do we get one on the value of the whole property if
Yeah,
there
we could
was
do both.
the idea of selling this and moving over there? You know, we do have an appraisal on the fire station property. We knew its value. I just wasn't sure if this would be worth a lot more based on its position.
Was that a fair market value appraisal that was done? I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Okay.
What was
Think
it,
we
Jim,
can
you
get
remember?
the fire station though up to usable for under 500 grand?
It's just the layout would be so, with the kitchen in the middle and the bedrooms and that, I mean, you could probably make offices out of the classroom area.
Yeah, you have 2 offices already. You have the bunk room that I would imagine could be made into offices, and you
Yeah.
have the classroom that could be made into offices. So the bones are there, right? You're just talking whether you want to do cubicles or walls is, there's a big cost difference there.
And really, there's nothing you would do with the bays, right?
I wouldn't try to.
You can't, I mean,
Well, I mean, it's a temporary city hall, because after that, it would be public works, and do we need those types?
I had to figure out where to have public meetings. I don't know if it's big enough. I was thinking the bays
those aren't that
big.
much. You just wouldn't want to put hardened walls in there, just
Right.
make space for, workspace.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of how many you could, there's so many offices too. And then that front area where the lieutenant sat, you could almost make an office out of that.
So you guys are all thinking construction. What about electronics and things to video and all that? I mean, I could see that being $500,000 in itself. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because if it's gonna be a temporary city hall, it has to do everything that this one does, right?
I don't know where you would put,
Yeah, public meetings, I call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to have a public meeting space. I have to.
Yeah, so it does not
It's
meet
below
current
flood too.
flood code as well, so you have to keep that 50% number
In mind, right?
You have to stay below that, or you're gonna have to.
I'm just wondering if we ought to go ahead and get something on what it would cost to get that building going, or if we should reconsider sell it to the fire station to help pay for this to get done.
So you
That
talked
would be-
about,
Sorry.
I was gonna
I was
say,
just, go ahead.
well, you talked about the church property earlier. If you stayed in here and did whatever you need to do for the firehouse and then built the new building over there and then sell this one off.
Right.
I don't know if that's even an option, but.
Well, when I briefly spoke with the people over there about it, they were looking like $2 million for the property. So,
Oh, wow.
so that's gone up, because when we looked at it, what, 10
8 years ago.
Yeah, it was like under $1 million.
We know here,
We
since,
got it for.
yeah, we already own the property, we know that it's 8 or 9 million just for the building. So that runs that up pretty quick. All right.
is that church in our city?
Yes.
It is. Good question.
It does
It's
a
right on the
interesting
border.
jog around
Yeah.
Yeah.
880 and the
It's right on the
church, yeah.
There's a
And
little
there's
section
one house
behind it.
directly behind the
Yeah.
church
Little corner
that is in the
that's
city and the rest of it is not.
off. So,
There's that piece of property on the other side of Park Street that's been for sale for 100 years. And it's a big piece of property, but it's not really in our city.
yeah.
We couldn't you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
We couldn't
We're gonna
redraw the line somehow,
Get it
stretch
complicated.
the line out a little bit.
Annex something.
That's a nice big space, and that's right on the main street.
Well, it looks like we're back to just having to rebuild this place. There's no other way around that I can figure out, but we do have to have a temporary place. That's really not temporary, because we're gonna have to build it to be fully functional. And that's probably gonna put it over the 50% rule, trying to get the fire station up to match this place.
Just so you know, the fire station, we could spend $406,000. It's valued at $812.
Oh, that's how much we could spend?
We could
Yes.
spend 406. It's valued at
That's the value of
$812.
the structure, not
Yes,
the
the value of the
property.
structure is $812.
It's just inside the
That's just the
physical.
building
That's just the
itself.
building itself, does not include the property.
That's what the 50% rule is based on, is
Correct.
the building itself, not the
So-
land.
To retrofit it.
Maybe we could
we'd
all
have to
do
spend
some
less than
work.
$400.
Ourselves, I'll do the electric.
I'm painting my house today.
Yeah, there you go.
First on
We
that
got a
one, when it's all
painter.
said and done.
Maybe get Sean involved. Oh my God. I'm trying to think, is there a space big enough to even have a chambers for,
The
for
fire
meetings,
station? The
right?
fire station? You'd have to put like temporary AC in the bay and do it in the bay, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that living room area wouldn't be big enough.
Is the video component a requirement for public meetings, or is that, would
No.
we have to, so, okay, we're all right there, we'd have to buy new video equipment to put in the
No.
firehouse.
Use the classroom for that, maybe. It's probably bigger than any other space there. You make cookies while you're having a meeting, because the kitchen's right there.
And sell them for $20 a piece for the new fire station, or the new city hall
Everything's,
building.
everything's for sale right
bake
now.
sale.
Oh my God.
Carrie, you've seen a lot of these numbers. Any chance 400,000 would even get us close over there to making it functional building?
Would be a real
I'm
stretch.
not feeling comfortable at all.
It would be very bare bones.
Okay.
Yeah, like whether it's permanent or temporary, right? Because you can do a lot with modular, offices as far as cubicles and whatnot. You don't have the privacy you do in a standard office, but if it's temporary, you just move them when you're done.
Okay.
But you're talking about a roof, part of a roof?
I would say a roof, you probably need to upgrade the generator, if you want to maintain power all the time.
What about the air conditioner?
Air conditioner's fairly new, we're just having trouble with, what they're calling a surge, which we had Duke out there several times, we had the AC folks several times, and it's, their fault. Maybe get someone else to reevaluate that, but the unit itself is not that old. It was purchased in my time here.
And only the inside building is air conditioned, the bays are not.
The bays or the workshop areas are not.
Okay.
No, nor would you want to try that.
No.
I mean, we could also potentially look at renting space.
Could the addition of a modular building on that lot as well help us to deter some costs for the inside? Something like maybe a double-wide modular building to hold meetings in, instead of having to redo that space?
Just to hold meetings.
Yeah.
And you take up your parking. I don't know where
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you could use the classroom for the city meetings, don't you think?
We'd have to determine occupancy.
Yeah, it's not real big.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's fine, right, with the amount of folks. It's those hot ticket items when you have a large crowd, we would have to do, the fire marshal duty and keep it.
Or whatever the number is, that's all we would let in. Then the rest of them would have to be in the other, outside of the building. But I think that's your most wide open space for something like that.
Seems like not
Don't you
really
think?
Yeah, we used to hold 20 folks for CME, maybe 25 tops.
I guess we need a price. Bring it down to bare bones, but,
To temporarily relocate
What it
city
would
hall
cost you.
operations to the
Yeah.
fire station.
All the equipment that has to be relocated, furniture, files, it's gonna
Yep.
be
restored.
moved, stored, and reinstalled, or replaced with new stuff, new construction. So like you said earlier, put lipstick on a pig, eventually where this building is already pretty much obsolete. We don't want to talk about spending that kind of money, but 5 years from now, it's gonna be 50% more than what we're talking about right now. It's unfortunate what happened and what we're faced with, but I think we just need to make the best long-term decision.
Long-term decision would be to rebuild this place,
Mhm.
and us to move temporarily over there. That's all there is to it. When to start that is a question. I guess if we start it next year, or
The funding is an issue.
we gotta get the
The funding
other
is a
place,
big
how long
issue.
it takes us to get the other place set up first, and we gotta have that in the budget. Gotta figure out what that's gonna cost us, so we need an idea, I guess, Wanamaker Jensen again, huh? To go in there and see what it would be to gut it, make it minimal.
Well, don't we have in the budget new AV equipment and everything for in here? So we could maybe use that money over there to put in.
Depending on how quickly we were to
Yeah.
actually relocate out of here.
Or just have this moved, much as I hate to use it again, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it'll last, yeah, why not? It'd work.
So I've never been in the firehouse before, so am I counting 8 people that are gonna have offices over there, full-time?
1, 2, 3.
9.
9, okay, I missed somebody, I apologize.
So you gotta have a room to sit in.
Yeah, and then you gotta have a council room or whatever we call
Yeah.
this room,
Yeah.
all right. And there, we think we can do that over there? We think there's enough room? Well, I guess we have.
There's enough room, it's just what would it take and can we do it under the amount that we can spend, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
What
there's
if-
room.
Like for finance and administration, what about all the files and all of that? I mean, would you have to go to a,
Well, it's gotta be moved one way or another.
yeah, no, but I'm saying, could you go to a, storage place and put some of that stuff where it could be big enough where you could access it if you needed to? Or stuff that you don't really, that you have to maintain, but you don't really go through it?
Yeah,
Cause that would have to be off-site. You know,
You
maybe,
guys wanna set up a tour?
what?
Do you want me to set up a tour so you guys can see?
Go inside and look at it again.
You can do that, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was thinking I was the only one
I
that
get
didn't
the
know what it
press.
looked
I've
like.
been in, right,
We've been in it,
refresher,
but
you know,
it's-
hadn't heard.
We could keep that.
I haven't seen it since they moved
Try to
out,
picture
No, I
it,
haven't either.
Oh,
yeah.
so.
it looks about the same.
That's figure gonna say.
yeah, if you haven't seen it, you
Change
should
much.
go over
Chief,
there.
you
It
gotta
looks
get a new
about the
decorator.
same.
There's no furniture or anything, right? It's all
There's
grass.
some.
Yeah, cause a lot of the desks and things were new for the new station, so.
It is there.
Yeah, everybody, if you haven't seen it, you probably should go over there. Get an idea.
It couldn't hurt for us all to go through it one time, actually.
So you can
Kinda
imagine
get some,
where each-
kick some ideas
yeah.
off each other,
Yeah.
kinda spitball, you know, conceptualize as we walk through, as a team might
Can't
help.
really do that.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask that question. Does somebody have to follow us around
You
with a
could,
video
you
camera?
could tour it, you should
You
not
can't.
discuss what
Right.
to do with it
You're right.
on the
You
tour.
gotta do that here.
Yeah.
You could walk it together,
I retract that suggestion.
sorry.
Put a mask over your mouth.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think.
I don't even know, could we even notice it over there as like a public, I mean,
Public tour.
I don't even know how to, I'll look into it, but yeah, we couldn't, we'll see. You could tour it, and I would discourage discussion.
Who was it that built the new city hall recently? What city is that?
Island.
Treasure
Like
Island,
Dunedin.
Dunedin.
St.
It's one
Peter's,
of
They did
the-
a
one, Dunedin's
beautiful-
big
Wow,
one.
there's a
Madeira's
core.
is a couple
When we
years
went
old
to,
now, but yeah.
when we went to the Dunedin for, I think it was a Suncoast League meeting, and they were showing us the new facility and everything, but they were talking about that they actually reached out to local businesses and the
businesses,
public
yeah.
and got people to donate
Yeah,
to help rebuild.
I was wondering,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Same.
what we would get in our city, but, I mean, if something
Roy
would,
Robinson.
would help. You try.
No pressure.
Hit for those- Reach for those deep pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the hospital, maybe, I don't know, anything, anybody, or we do
It's
have.
just such a bad time to have to do that.
Oh, you know it.
I
You
know.
know,
We are-
it couldn't
we are
be
very
worse.
small.
Especially when some of our big money's having to tear down their houses to rebuild.
Yeah.
So- Well, that could be something that could be after it got started, too, not something that's done right away.
Right.
At a bake sale, bake sale would
Brick.
work. For a
Oh,
couple,
I talked about
couple
doing that.
$50,
Yeah,
$50
brick
Buy
bucks.
brick, yeah.
For the walkways.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
a walkway along the waterfront. We talked about that a couple
$10,000
years
of
ago.
brick, we'll have that covered in no
Something for
time.
out here or whatever.
It's a lot of bricks.
It's a long walkway.
Yeah.
Or very
1,000
expensive
a brick.
bricks.
Okay. So, if we decide that we are moving forward with this, complete rebuild, Jim,
He's gonna move up his
how's that going
retirement.
to affect,
This conversation.
the budget for next year? And what do we need to start adding, look like we're gonna be adding in?
I'd be
Is that gonna
checking
be-
his
And how do we
pulse,
come
too.
up with the money?
I
Is that
really,
gonna be,
I really think it's a lot.
soft estimate cost?
I think it's, you know, the architects sent us a letter, they didn't give us any details as to timeframes. I mean, I think we would have to budget some of those soft costs to get going.
Yeah, consulting.
That kind of thing, but the construction probably wouldn't start, it might start taking place in '26.
I doubt
But we
it.
almost would need a time frame from them in order to know what to put in the budget. I mean, when we did the fire station, we put the entire amount, we knew we weren't gonna do it all in a year, but we had it there.
Well, I recommend is that we look at the soft costs for next year, the permitting, getting the drawings and all that fun stuff done. And then probably construction starting in '27. And then we budget for '27 for the big cost. Because next
And
year,
when do you do the demo?
so,
like in
well, that's when that'll
26?
happen in that'll start in '27.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, next year, we just get nailed everything down, but it's not a short process. But we
It's a
went through
very
this
long
with the fire
process.
station, we know how
Yeah.
long it's gonna take us, pretty much, to
Several
get the drawings,
RFPs.
approve everything,
Yeah, several RFPs.
yes. So, it might not even be '27 for things start, it might be '28,
Yeah.
but, we gotta get it started. So, what do you think, we need the budget like 2 million for next year? I mean,
Well, we also.
you got a $1.7 million,
Yeah, whatever the soft costs were.
but you got IT security systems in there, we probably don't need that for next year.
So they
What's,
have AE
what's
design
FF and
permitting.
E?
Furnitures, fixtures, and equipment.
Yeah.
So, we'll need that next year.
That's a guess, guys.
And then who do
I think that's a good sound.
who do we go
He said it with
to
too much
to get
confidence.
a quote on what we'd have to do for the fire station, the old fire station?
And
Like,
we need that too.
that, I mean, who would
I mean, we can talk to.
go
Lana
over
Mary
there and give
Jensen
us a
as
quote
well.
on what they'd have to do? Who would you even ask to do something
It's
like
gotta be a
that?
general contractor,
Wanamaker
right?
Just a contractor? Well,
Yeah.
because you're not really
Well,
tearing walls
they're-
down
that's
or anything.
engineering, I
but
don't know that
still.
we'd need
They would do that.
Would they?
Yeah.
engineering.
I mean, we can get, since Wanamaker Jensen's deep involved in this, I guess they can do the fire station for us too, tell us
Give us a quote
They
on,
can do
the
process,
guts
Yeah.
and everything.
ideas.
And that way we got someone managing the project while it's getting done as well.
Absolutely.
So we need to, I guess, budget for Wanamaker Jensen to look at the fire station and give us what that's gonna cost, so we can have it to use by 2027, if the work would start then. And then also go ahead and move forward with this full rebuild of City Hall here. And the cost of what that's gonna be done, just to get the paperwork stuff out of the way so that work can begin, maybe in '27. If we can't get it started till 2028, that's just the way it is.
How do you lock in a price, though? I
Well,
mean,
you don't,
Don't think
you
you
don't
can.
lock
there's
in.
no way to lock in.
Sometimes you can lock in labor, but you can't lock in cost of material, that's gonna go up.
They'll usually build in a
And they're gonna build it in
contingency.
anyway. They say we're starting in 2 years, I'm gonna add 5 and 5, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I ran into a lot of that during COVID, where the contractors would come in and they would lock in their labor, but they would not lock in the cost of material. And that was put in their contracts, so.
They just fluctuate way too much. Well, they don't fluctuate, they keep going up.
So I guess we need,
And can you come up with a number that you think we couldn't exceed to stay within the 50%? Or do you know what that is?
406.
Well,
for the fire station,
Yeah.
it's 406.
Oh, okay, so we already know
and
that.
that would mean also if we, well, let's the three appraise it maybe a little bit more. So you're not
Yeah,
gonna
if
get
we
much more out of it
reappraise,
no
we might
matter
get a
what it
little
is.
more wiggle room
But
there.
the worst case scenario is we would have to waterproof the building, not tear it down, right? You would have to close off the bays
Correct.
and they need bays. But we can you can still have a garage, can't you?
Yes, you would, the structure itself, the garage wouldn't be part of it.
So those, you can still have the doors going up and down.
Correct.
all that
So
fun
even
stuff.
though it's up a little higher, it's still not
Doesn't meet
enough.
current,
No, no. But you can waterproof the interior. So kinda like what,
Because it's not residential.
yeah, like some of our restaurants have done around here and that kind of thing.
But
You also don't
Yeah.
wanna put too much in a temporary, right? If that's your 50% kind of mark, do you really wanna go above that anyway?
Well, it's temporary for
No,
us,
we don't want.
but it might be permanent
Public Works.
for Public Works.
That just may be a different altogether
different.
landscape, you know?
It could be, could we start off with the temporary, and then once we're back in here, then we look at more money to make that a more of a permanent place for them, and that'll be years down the road. So, you're probably looking at 2030 before you move back in here.
Oh my God, I'll be dead by then. So you guys enjoy.
You guys have to say 4 years, right? Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's not very long.
I know it sounds like a long time, but it's
Yeah.
only 4 years.
Oh
Okay, well, I guess we got a plan. We just got to get Wanamaker Jensen to give us a price to put in the budget for doing all the paperwork next year and for whatever they want to cost to get, to pay them to do the fire station. So,
As a temporary
yeah,
city hall.
right. Because that's gonna take a year for them to get all that done anyway.
And I mean, for the fire station, we can move furniture that we have and stuff like that. We don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of
Yeah, we
new
could,
stuff.
we could
If it's temporary, just bring what we have.
In 2027, when we do 2027 budget, we'll have a better idea of where we're at. And we can decide then if we can move forward or not in 27, because they still might not be done. You know, we might be still messing around with paperwork. And might have to put it off to 28, but it'd be nice if we could get it started in 27 to get it done and over with, and go on from there. So, do we need numbers? I guess,
I think.
can you have them by next Tuesday? Long as we have them by the end of the budget process, before the end of the budget process, I should say, so that we can figure it in. But we might be having to go out to get loans just for this. I hope not. Can't keep digging into the reserves forever and ever. All right. Anything else?
I've got a couple items when you guys are done with
Are we done with Jim? Is Jim done with us?
I don't know. Did we go through all these pages?
Jim's head is spinning.
Well, today was not a dent day, so I'll do that.
Not a get day?
A dent, putting a dent in the budget.
Oh,
It was more of an
it
increase.
might be a
budget
get day. We're not done with our chief yet.
that. You should be relatively simple, I believe.
Just because I haven't been involved before, I understand when you build a fire station, you would probably be the main person to make decisions on what was gonna go in it. When you build a city hall, is that done by the commission? Is that done, by Carly? I mean, who decides what our city hall's gonna look like?
We work
Sounds-
together on that. We'd have
Is it a
architect-
commission?
You had
Yeah, we'd have
somebody
the
managing that
architects
project.
Come up with a
Multiple-
proposal.
Even though it
and-
was you at the
yeah.
end, we had
Okay.
And then we'd
a
bring it
guy
to you all.
managing
Well,
that
we have a
project.
construction
Um,
manager at risk, right?
Because even the
I
fire
think-
But you were
station,
still
the commission
I think he's talking about
saw
design
that
and everything,
throughout the
right?
process.
Make sure
Okay.
you have what
he
you
was
need.
basically a
I
technical
know what a fire
advisor at
station
risk,
needs,
so,
I'm
you
not
know,
sure
it'd
what
be-
a
it'd be
city hall
similar.
needs.
So,
And we're not either.
It
but-
needs sprinklers and
Well,
fire
and we don't
alarms,
need
but-
the Taj Mahal either, so,
Agreed.
you know.
We need very
Well, you
functional.
know, you get a professional architect to tell you, and
We
you-
talked with them, and it's like they said, why in the heck did they put the
Not have a window in
elevator-
the front of the building,
Not
one
have a
thing.
window
On
in
the
the building,
view.
so they suggested moving the entrance to the side or even the back side. So they made some recommendations, and Carl said, I need this many spaces, and so.
yeah, we
When
talked
they did
about.
this, they were supposed to consider that, but
Yeah.
Okay.
they didn't give us the details.
Sure.
They were
I see what
supposed-
you're saying,
But they
right.
were supposed to consider all that, so.
You
Yeah.
probably could make a public space that's more desirable too, you know.
100%.
Water view and, you know, rent it for.
100%. Yep.
I can imagine you put a third floor, you put a floor above this with a glass window out front. It would be spectacular. Yeah, yeah, with an open space, that'd be spectacular.
So we rented out Hibiscus Hall for the whole day, what do we normally get, just ballpark? Did it vary on what was used?
What's
that's a
like
Sean
6
question.
Hang on, I can pull it up. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot,
Hold on.
non-resident.
$300,
I was just reading that yesterday too.
Hang on.
isn't it like $300?
Yeah, I think it was 600 and something with
Yeah.
the deposit for a non-resident. It was not very much.
Not much.
I mean, all the times we rent it through the whole year, we might make between 8 and 10 grand.
So function non-resident is 678. Function resident is
Well, we
517.
tried to keep fees low for residents.
Right.
Well, and it was a basement, right? I mean, you can only get so much for renting out a basement.
No, but it was, we did a couple venues
Yeah,
there.
it
It
was
was a
a
night, yeah, with the
Nice
kitchen.
kitchen.
But if you had, yes.
Revenue, maybe, it was almost every
Yeah.
weekend at the school, but like St. Pete
Really?
Beach,
Yeah, it
I
was
think they
nice
get
down
2 or 3 grand for theirs.
Yeah, and I imagine you did the upstairs well,
Yeah.
you might be talking those kind of numbers.
That'd probably
Especially
be
if
something
you
to
got the view.
consider in the
Oh, yeah, I mean,
design.
like Mark said, it's a basement.
I just was thinking, there's no view down there.
Not much.
There's no view, like, y'all have the best view right now where you are, is look
Yeah.
out that
Yeah.
window.
How did that ever happen? I mean, when this place was built, it wasn't juxtaposed to take advantage of the lot.
The commission at the time said, you know, if we put windows out there,
Put blinders on
everybody's
everybody.
gonna be mad at us, cause we got this great water.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Too bad.
You know, back in those days.
Was anybody here for that? Jim, do you remember when they were building this?
No.
Oh, no, I wasn't
You
here.
were here, was
This was
it?
built in like 72 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, I remember that one. 98.
72. I graduated.
That's about the end
eighth
of its functional life.
Okay. All right, chief, what you got?
A couple items. One is I was approached by the fire chief of Pinellas Suncoast asking if they could either have or purchase a part that we have in the fire station learning system at the old fire station. So I called Motorola and I said, what are they asking for? What's the value? And is it something that we possibly could need, if we had to replace a part on our current system? First of all, it is not compatible with what we have in the new station, so it is not a part that we could move with us. The part that they're looking for, depending on condition, has a used value of anywhere from $1,500 to $4,500. They are in a temporary fire station that they don't want to buy the new alerting system. They're just trying to keep the one they have working.
This was what kind of a part?
It's an encoder for a fire station alerting system, what dispatches the crews out of the fire station itself.
Okay.
You know how we have the new mock alert system that is lighting, encoding, and sound. This is basically a sound component.
So it's just sitting there, we're not using it?
And depending on if they want it for a temporary use type thing, and what'd they say, 1,500 to 4,500 they go for? What were you thinking about?
I was thinking of
25?
letting them have it to help them
Yeah,
out.
all right, sorry. I was thinking, they're first responders.
Yeah,
They either keep it all the
I don't
way
know, I'm
down at
looking
the
at building
bottom.
a new city hall.
That's why after that conversation.
It didn't feel like it was gonna move the
And I wanna
budget very
give
much.
something away.
Yeah.
Like a $9.8 million carpet.
Yeah. Maybe we can write it off in depreciation for a little.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess we can give it to
Well,
them.
it's just one more thing out of our way.
And I don't know from a legal standpoint of donating that, we would probably need to document it as such, correct?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll reach out to them and see what we need to do as far as documenting that it
So
wasn't.
they knew you had that?
They contacted Motorola, who gave them a list of people who
Oh,
potentially
okay.
could, and of course, the fact that our station's sitting there, they knew it was most likely there, so. Now, what I would ask is if we're gonna give it to them, whatever cost there is for Motorola to come get it.
They cover
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair.
I don't want to pay for that too.
No.
Okay, and then the second thing is I reached out to Advanced Engineering, Justin, to talk about the potential for grant management of the two generator grants that we submitted letters of intent through LMS to apply for those grants. So he said, one, they do provide grant management services, especially if it is a project that they have engineered. In other words, if they do the design, it makes sense for them to be the grant manager. I asked him, is the management cost and the design cost potentially funded in the grant process? Depends is the answer I got, depending on how much the engineering costs were and how complicated or how much work this type of grant would take. So he's supposed to be getting me some kind of ideas of a not to exceed numbers, hopefully by the end of the month. I know that puts us up against our end times, but he is working on that now. One question he did ask, and I told him I'd bring to you guys today, is those two generator projects, is that something the city is interested in moving forward with, even if we did not get the grant? In other words, should that be a long-term city project to have those generators installed at both locations? And if so, did we want him to go ahead and do the design portion of each project? So in other words, to engineer those projects, and I asked him for an estimate on those costs.
Well, I know when we were going over it in the budget last time, we were pretty much all told it was maybe on those grants. It's a lot of money,
Yes.
but it is something that's needed. What do you guys think?
These are both for the fire station?
No. This one is a generator and platform and
Oh, right.
electric equipment elevation at City Hall, which depending on what we just talked
Right,
about.
right,
we
right.
changed
I'm-
that. And then the other one, Sean, was the
For him?
generator and platform at Public Works, correct?
Yeah, the annex.
Yeah,
The
next
annex
building.
building, sorry.
Well, I would think that the one for here would be part of the new construction. But what if something happens before we get that started? Can we use a temporary generator at this place?
They
can it
won't
be-
grant fund it.
Well, yeah, I know.
Oh, they
Yeah.
won't grant it.
I kind of figured that, but I mean, we would
Yeah.
eat the cost of renting one to use.
Install a transfer switch.
Yeah, I would say, do we already have, I think we would need to get a transfer switch, but we could just connect to it.
Or would the new generator also be able to be taken out and attached to the new building if we go that route?
Yeah. So we did apply, it's funny you say that. First of all, my track record of grants is not very good, so you get that up front. So we were all the way almost to the finish line of a generator at the old fire station. And when I told them, we had signed and we were gonna build the new station, they went through the process of determining if we could, if awarded the grant, by moving that generator to the new station, even though we gave them lat long coordinates where it would be, they actually said it would be better for me to withdraw from that grant, because they didn't think we could move it. And we were gonna pay 25% of a grant to put a generator at an old fire station that we couldn't move. So we decided not to do that. So I think the way they're worded is you're moving, we can ask again, but it wasn't a good option
Didn't
last
seem
time.
like a good idea.
But we could, and it's funny you say that after this meeting, because I was just asked by LMS to rank the two generator projects, and I put City Hall first, but I could simply email her and tell her to switch those. No, the Public Works Annex
Public
building.
Works.
Oh,
It was a slightly less expensive project, not much, but a little bit, but, with the servers being here, that's why I focused on this one.
Seems like a year later, the real cost of this hurricane is bubbling up to the surface,
Yes.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
you know?
We'll be feeling that effect for a while. What do you guys think?
I like your idea of the portable one. Let me ask a question. If we need a portable one, are we gonna need it at the same time as everybody else around us needs it? And how much accessibility would we, in reality, have to be able to get one?
We could get one, what it's gonna cost, depending, so in other words, if it's a state-funded mission or if it's a local funded mission, and of course, those costs during the disaster can be relatively high.
Okay,
We looked at a similar situation with fuel,
Mhm.
at the EOC. There are companies that will guarantee you fuel at time of disaster, but you pay throughout the year,
Oh, yeah.
so I
Insurance
would-
policy.
Yeah, I would assume the generator would be the same, I just don't know what that cost would be. So you could have one with your name on it, but they are literally setting that aside, therefore you're paying monthly to have that.
So would the grant pay for buying a portable generator?
They don't, the grant does not, HMGP does
be
not
built
fund it,
in.
it's gotta be fixed. Yeah,
Hardwired.
Yeah.
Okay. So
They-
that could be a option, just buy one to have ready for those types of emergencies.
And Sean would know
We,
a lot
we
more about
put,
what
we
it would
put
take.
70 in the capital.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put,
Put a transfer switch in at the old fire station, that way we can hook it up there if we need it, when we move over there. We have a transfer switch put in here, and we just own a portable generator that we can move from those locations until this new one's built with a permanent.
permanent.
I'm sure the cost would be better, I
We
would
just
hope.
did one at the EOC, right? I can't remember the cost.
So, switch or the
Oh,
generator?
I'm sorry, we got a quote on a transfer switch at St. Pete College Seminole,
Oh.
which at the time was our tertiary EOC. Sean, do you remember what that was at all? I wanna say 150? I'll look it up, yeah.
So what's the point of the generator on, you think?
For,
Hey, Sean, we just put one in for you, is that the same thing they would need here?
What's that?
We put 70,000 in.
That's just for a generator. That's not counting the transfer
Okay.
switch.
Right, right. If that's what he's asking, what would a generator cost?
Yeah, no, probably, it would have to be bigger, so probably pushing 100,000, because the one I'm getting was a smaller one for my lift stations, because I already have a big one, but probably pushing 100,000 for, you probably need a 100 kW.
So probably looking, 250, 350.
Oh my God.
For the big buildings and the generator, absolutely, okay.
Yeah, and it could be less,
Yeah.
might be more. But, it's still, what are we looking at now, 700 for the one for here? Without a grant?
It was like 700 with a 25 or 75% grant, so what was our exposure, it was like 150.
So for half the cost, we pay it all,
And we own it.
yeah. And it would be, 350 coming out of the budget for next year too.
the City Hall estimated project cost, generator platform here was 618,750.
A little more than half, we can just have one. And be ready for our new plans.
And move it as you
Moving forward. So this would be, just so I have my head on straight, this would be a plan to do that, but we have to find out if we're under the 50% budget for City Hall before we make that investment, or do we do that?
No, because
In parallel?
it's not gonna be, we're gonna be under the 50% installing a transfer switch.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
will for
tear this
that,
down,
right.
so yeah, there's nothing
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
It's just, this is gonna be additional cost. Is that considered part of the 50%, putting in a transfer switch at the old fire station?
Yes.
Oh my
The
God.
generator will not, but the transfer switch will.
Okay, so what did we say, the transfer switch was, what, 75 to put in, 150 for two? Is that what I heard? And we got
50, is it for two or is that for one? For the transfer switch?
just
He's
one.
saying for one,
Oh.
so.
No, because I was thinking about the setup at the old fire station. There is a transfer switch, there is a 40-year-old generator. What that means we can do, I'm not sure. Terry's gonna tell us right now.
The generator's still there?
Oh, yeah.
And did it work when we needed it?
So during Irma, remember, it wouldn't power the AC. It's not built to power the whole station. It was simply built to,
Like the electricity and stuff like that?
certain electricity, not
Yeah.
even all.
Refrigerator.
Okay.
I remember that, it was pretty
So,
hot in
the
there.
transfer switch that there, is possible it could be used
That I don't
with a
know.
portable.
I just
We'd have to
know-
have it looked at and find
I
out.
just know there is a transfer switch, but it's not it's in other words, it's tied into the generator permanent. It's not the one you could take and plug in.
So that would be the thing, is what it would cost to make that a plug-in one,
Yeah.
just to convert, if it can be converted.
So, Senate Bill 180, which is on the governor's desk to be signed. One of the things that does is it takes away the ability to do cumulative repairs. Thank you. Complete blank. So I'm not sure how this works with the National Flood Insurance Program guidance because they're very in conflict. Because the Stigley's bill says that you could apply for a permit today for one thing, and then tomorrow you could apply for another permit, and you can't add them together. Whereas we have a one-year cumulative in our flood ordinance, and it's part of the National Flood Insurance Program, which says for that 1 year, everything gets added together and you can't phase projects. So I'm not sure what that's how that will come into play with,
So if we put the transfer switch in before the end of this year,
Correct.
and they don't move into the fire
But I did
station
not
until
say
two
that.
thousand 27, that's a whole different year.
You're,
But that's
Well,
if
it's
he
a
signs,
12-month
that's if he signs
cumulative.
the law,
so it's within 12 months is the
and
rule.
FEMA won't punish us. for
But I'm,
that wrong.
and I definitely will not guarantee that. I'm not sure how it's gonna play out. So what FEMA's gonna do with that, because we might get dinged on the flood insurance issues, and so I just wanted to,
Well, it sounds like we have to
Some more
figure the
confusion
transfer switch into the cost, or just don't
For
figure it
this
in.
year.
Well, we need to do it here no matter what, I guess, because there's no sense in putting in a $600,000 platform and generator in a building you're gonna tear
For
down.
2 or 3 years, right?
So we need to figure in putting it in here and buying the generator, no matter what. As far as the fire station goes, let's look at that on yeah, for when we're ready. Let's just get this building done.
40 years old, that generator over there?
Can we just move that 40-year-old one over to Public Works and
Yeah, can we do that? Give that to
and then we'll
Sean.
use that money for, yeah.
I don't have anything after 40.
Yeah, I know.
Should we,
pull a generator from here, from.
Well, Sean's over 40, he still works.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
41 and counting.
I may leave it and then just not fill out the grant paperwork.
should we buy that this year?
Just in case.
We have the one budgeted, I'm not sure which one it is, 25. The one with the grant, and the net might leave enough in, but if we basically amend our budget, take that out, and put any differential in, do it now, because we're going into hurricane season, we might need it
Right.
now.
Let's do that.
Why don't we do that?
Where does it stay?
Sean's problem.
Trailer mounted.
The generator that size?
Where at?
If it's portable, we can store it at the fire station,
Oh, the old
Yep.
fires, yeah. You
Put it
could
in one of the
inside.
bays.
store it in the bay.
Okay, so all we need is a transfer switch for here, buy the generator, store it at the fire station until it's needed. And then we go forward with the other fire station as far as rebuilding it, and then think about a transfer switch in the future for it.
Are they gonna do a transfer switch with the electric at that level? Do they care?
It'll have to be on a platform.
There's always something, you know. It'll have to be built up, I'm sure.
If the transfer switch is below water, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as what's there in that room, that goes up with the transfer switch?
Can't,
Can't.
Can.
not unless it comes up here, there's no room down there.
Which was that another?
We could waterproof
We could
Wasn't that something else we
waterproof
had budgeted?
We could
Did we have that
waterproof
budgeted about moving the electricity up here? from
That
down
was
there?
just
Yes.
a
We had
small outlet.
we had
Yeah.
10,000 budgeted, we moved to 27, for 26 we did, but
We can waterproof that room.
All we needed is just by next year.
Right.
Hopefully they'll start in 27, but if not, we gotta get by to 2028 at the latest, I hope. I hate to say latest, but, yeah, I kept saying that with the fire station, it didn't work. Okay,
Putting in a transfer switch and flood-proofing the electric room.
but for rebuilding this property, there's no rezoning or anything we gotta do or nothing, it's just rebuilding it. Okay,
Above
Correct. Plus 2 feet.
Plus 2 feet.
DFE.
we had to do some of that over there with your property, we had to,
Exact same thing.
and that took a lot of work.
This will be on piles as opposed to, so you don't have to worry about getting trucks up to the top level, so.
Use the apparatus to turn around, that's the big deal there.
Typical piles.
let Peniel Suncoast know if they can arrange to get that component and do what they need to do.
I guess to eliminate the one generator completely from City Hall, the permanent install.
I'll call Smita, who's in charge of that local mitigation strategy group, and see what she recommends. Since we did an intent to apply, it may be better to keep it,
Let it go through.
just in case, but not do the actual application through the state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna hurt anything, letting the county know we had an intent, or, depending, right, on what happens, but,
It's in next year's budget regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the budget, it's just, we know we're not gonna do it
if we're gonna,
fiscal year.
but I could keep talk to Justin at Advanced Engineering and see about I'll see what he gives back, and then let him know we may just focus on the Public Works Annex generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at what we talked about today, how does this look at affecting things like purchasing a new server? Do we need to still purchase a new server
Yes.
here?
Yeah,
Even though we're gonna be moving it over there?
yeah,
Yeah, because it'll
because we
still,
won't be moving for a couple of years anyway, and
So-
it
so you
You
can
can
do
move
that.
a server.
you can move a server, yeah, yeah.
You can put that anywhere.
The only thing that it makes me question is the AV update, really.
Correct.
'Cause,
Is
I mean,
what?
The AV system,
Oh, yeah.
the Alma, yeah. So, it's old, it's working, but it's old, and so.
Yeah.
It also doesn't do, when we went through COVID, that was a big push,
Did
because
we
there
get
was
the
a lot of
carpeting
things that
in
it
for here
doesn't do.
too?
Sorry?
I got
We
moved
moved
2
it
years.
out.
Yeah.
We moved it out, okay.
Yeah, anything like that would be no sense to do.
New furniture, stuff like that?
Well,
We have minimal.
somebody needs a
in
chair,
there.
but,
I mean, there's like a desk
Yeah.
for,
I mean, these
a
are so
Jim's
much fun,
office.
these chairs.
I mean, I think those
You don't know
yellow
if you're
chairs are
up or
like
down.
originals to the building,
I
so,
sneak his
Yeah.
chair all the time.
so,
They've lasted.
yeah, we haven't touched those chairs.
Can't think of anything else that we had in there that, we need to second guess. But if you guys were on it, I know, so if you think of anything that's in the budget for next year that we can eliminate because of this new plan, let's do it. Let us know. Anyone else have anything? You got no more for us, chief?
Nothing from you,
So
Sean?
need anything? How about Kelly? She need anything? No?
Kelly, anything for Kelly?
Carly? Nothing today?
The lawyer? The lawyer, are we on the right track? Oh,
Okay, then we're gonna adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We're back here tonight, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes.